Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at SeatGeek, the best and easiest to use ticket platform out there. They take the confusion out of buying tickets using a 0 to 10 scoring system and a green is good, red is bad color rating system so you and your loved ones get the best deal possible. So whether it's going to see our beloved Red Legs at Great American Ballpark, the Bengals over at Paycor, FC Cincinnati, one of the area college teams, or pretty much anything in between, use promo code Riverfront at checkout and receive $20 off your first order. Click the link in the show notes to download the app and get started. That's Riverfront, one word, for $20 off.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome to a special edition of Riverfront U. I am joined by my good friend, current coach of the Miami Redhawks, second year now, Travis Steele. What's up, man? It's been too long.
It has been too long, Tim. I'm used to seeing you all the time, so
I know
it's always good to see you.
Yeah, Travis, you were kind of like the coach I grew up with when I became a media member, because I'm sure you remember the first like 5 or 6 times I interviewed you, I was very timid all the time and didn't know what I was doing. So look at me, I've matured with you, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't say you didn't know what you were doing. Let's we got to give you more credit than that, Tim. I think you're a natural. So, but we all do mature as we grow in our profession. So that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I always appreciate everything with you, man. Let's get to it. So, how was the summer? You guys got to do an overseas trip. I know teams really valued that. It's the second time you've gotten to do it as a head coach now. So, what are those experiences like?
Yeah, I think number one, man, just the cultural experience you get to give your players, right? Seeing something different. And we went to Puerto Rico, which was a little further south than I had remembered it. I thought it was a little bit closer to Florida until I looked on the map. I was like, dang, it's a little bit further away. But just give them a different cultural experience. I think that's number one. And then number two, just the bonding that you get out of a trip like that when you're in a foreign territory. Kind of all you got is you guys
Right.
are our team, and be able to spend a lot of time together and really get to know each other. And then we also got to play a little bit too. And we played 3 games down there. We had 10 practices leading up to that. We have 8 new players, 5 freshmen, which is unheard of probably in college basketball. But, so just gave us a little bit of a head start and gave me an idea of what we had. I think that's important. Like, I think we always use the summers to see what do we have, what can we be great at. That's kind of what I always start with. Like, what can we be known for with this group, and then kind of evolving our system kind of around that. So it was a great trip, and we stayed healthy, which was huge, Tim. That's most important probably.
Right.
In those, because you don't want to make the season too long. The season's already long as it is, and you want to make it fun. But I thought we got a lot out of that trip.
So I know you were in attendance at Nippert Stadium when the Miami football team went in there and got the victory over Cincinnati. Can we just confirm that they won because you were there, and for some reason you have good luck on that campus?
You should, yeah. Maybe I was calling the offensive plays.
Yeah.
I was the co-offensive coordinator that night. Felt like I was playing Madden. No, it was fun. It was a fun game, man. I'm so happy for Chuck Martin, our football coach. Man, he does a tremendous job. That was a big win, obviously, for him and the program in Miami, and it was fun to witness it. And they've had a great year here. I mean, they've been rolling. Their quarterback just went down last weekend, unfortunately, but the next man up mentality, and I know Coach Martin will finish out the season really strong.
What is that like for you when you have like a football team that has a success? And I know you were an assistant at Ohio State for a little while when they were the best team in the country, and you were at Indiana for a little while, but obviously at Xavier you didn't kind of have that fortune. But what is that like here when you have a football team that's so successful? How much that lifts kind of the athletic department?
Yeah, I think it just creates a great energy and a great buzz, right? Like, success breeds success. And I think anytime you see, whether it's our field hockey team they go to the NCAA tournament every year.
Yeah.
It seems like, he's been rolling softball, football. I think that just uplifts everybody. It just does. And and just helps strengthen our brand here at Miami. You know, I always say we're not the most important people here, but we are the front porch of a university, and we want to represent Miami, the university, the alumni base, you know, the right way. And football is definitely doing that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about the team. So going back to last year, going into the MAC tournament, you guys kind of caught a little fire. You started kind of put the pieces together and get a little momentum. How much have you kind of leaned into that with, you know, this new crop of guys you mentioned, 5 freshmen, 8 new players, kind of leaning into that momentum to kind of keep building on what you guys were starting to do last year?
Yeah, because we do have some returners as well. We have a lot of new guys. And I think, you know, we read the book. Our summer reading was Chop Wood, Carry Water, and which I think is a great book and just talks about, you know, not necessarily being obsessed with the result, but just being obsessed with trajectory and the path to becoming great, right? The process. And, you know, our group last year, they stuck with it. We probably weren't the most talented group in the league. I think we were picked last in the league preseason. But we got better as the year wore on. I give our guys and our staff a ton of credit, man. I got a tremendous staff here, and just the positive energy that we were able to keep, even during some tough stretches there early on in the MAC. I felt like kept our guys together and kept them going, just moving forward, just get better. And we did. We got hot late, and we got a lot better. And I think that was a great lesson, especially for our returning players, Ryan Mabry's, who's a sophomore now, Jaquel Morris, a sophomore now, Anderson Marambo's a senior. It shows that, hey, listen, if you just stick to it, regardless of the circumstances around you, man, we'll get to where we want to go. And now I want to start that earlier this year than we did late last year, but you want to peak at the right time, especially in mid-major basketball. Listen, you got to be at your best during that MAC tournament, right? Like those 3 or 4 days dictate. You could have the best regular season you can ever, maybe in program history, but if you don't win the MAC tournament, it's going to be hard to get in the NCAA tournament. So we got to peak at the right time, and I think there's definitely a way to do that, and an approach that we have. So definitely been leaning into that this summer, though, just as a lesson to be learned for our guys, something to reflect on.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned, so you look at the schedule this year, you guys obviously start at Evansville, and you come home for the season opener against Texas State. So let's kind of go a little bit through the non-conference before you guys get to MAC play. Obviously, there's the Marshall game, there's the Ohio State trip, Davidson, Wright State. Why do you guys have so many road games in a row?
Yeah, just test our guys, man. We'll play anybody anywhere, Tim.
I know you will, but
yeah, and I think that's just our my thing is with our guys, especially where we are as a program right now. I think sometimes programs will say, well, hey, let's just play, get as many wins as possible, right? That's one approach. You know, the other approach is, hey, we're going to play anybody anywhere. And I want to challenge our group. I want to get outside of off our campus to prepare us for MAC play, for when we do have to go play at Kent State or go play at Toledo. We played in hostile environments, faced adversity. I want our group to face a lot of adversity in the non-conference, and that will help us in conference play. So we got a tough schedule. It'll be interesting. Like early on, obviously we have at Evansville, and we're home against Texas State, part of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge, and then we have Eastern Illinois here and Coppin State, and then we're able to go on the road. You know, you got at St. Bonaventure, you got at Marshall, you got at Ohio State, you got at Davidson, at Wright State. By the way, all those teams are really good.
Yeah,
and then we also have home Vermont, who I think they're top 5 in winning percentage in the last decade in the entire country. So it's a hard schedule, but again, I want to challenge our group. And if that's who we aspire to be, then we need to play them, regardless if it's home or away or neutral, it doesn't really matter. So I'm excited to see what we got. And again, like my whole process, just, hey, can we just continue to get better and develop? By the time we get to MAC play, we're going to be a heck of a lot better than we were in non-conference.
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned Wright State, and probably like my least favorite arena in the country. Not even gonna lie to you. No joy walking into that place. It's very, very weird. So I know that's gonna be a fun atmosphere because it's the crowd is great. The fans are
Yeah,
awesome there,
yeah,
but just a weird setup. It's almost Vanderbilt-esque in strangeness.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been in there. As
Oh
crazy.
man,
I've never been in there.
you'll uh you'll have to text me afterwards and be
I
like,
will.
what is this? Um, it's interesting. Let's talk a little about some of the guys you have coming in. I know obviously in this area, a lot of people are going to look at the local kids.
Yeah.
You bring in Evan Ipsara from Covington Catholic, obviously a guy who had really, really great career here in high school. Ian Elmer from Taft. You've mentioned in the past how much you really appreciate recruiting in this area because you have you have your finger on the pulse with the talent just from all the stops you've had in your career. What have you really seen from this area to kind of get these competitive kids, these kids who go to winning programs, and try to bring them to Miami to kind of keep that going in their evolution?
Yeah, I think number one, you said it. I think there's some really, really good coaches in the Cincinnati area. Northern Kentucky. I call Northern Kentucky, just so you know, Cincinnati
Same,
area. So
same.
it's there's some terrific coaches and great programs, and we want to recruit from those programs. You know, you look at when Miami was really good in the Charlie Coles era, and before that as well. We've always had a footprint in the Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland areas. And we have to be able to have a very, very strong, our brand's really strong here. So we have to use that. And, being able to get Evan and Ian as far as part of our first full class here was big. And, we also got Darwishi Hunter on transfer coming back. He's from Princeton High School here in Cincinnati on transfer. And, so we got 3 guys from the area that are all good players. And, I've loved kind of what I've seen out of each of those guys. I think Evan, you said it, he's been a winner his entire life. I mean, just wins. He finds ways. He's tough. He's competitive. He's got a super high IQ, and man, he's skilled. And, people are going to say, well, he's 5'10". He plays to win, man. He's the ultimate point guard. He just makes guys better. I mean, he just has that way about him and always has since he was little. And then Ian Elmer was a little bit different. He was kind of a guy that trended late, kind of up. And I love finding guys that are trending later on, kind of in their high school careers. He's a full year young for his grade. Ian is. Which I always look at birth dates as well, and because usually those guys get exponentially better late, and Ian has been better early on here than I thought he would be, and his ceiling is extremely high. He's got a chance to be really, really good. He's just versatile. He's 6'6", athletic, does a lot of things. He's different than the wings. A lot of the wings in our league, Tim. Like he's more athletic. He's just bigger. He looks like a high major wing, like size and athleticism, and we got to get him there and develop him. But he's a great kid and he'll work, and great young man. So, and then Darwishi Hunter is a guy that, man, he can really score, man. He's always been able to do that since he was back at Princeton High School. He's kind of bounced around in college, and we were lucky enough to get him back here home for his last year of college basketball.
So I want to focus on him for a second. In your head coaching career, you've always been pretty good at getting transfers that can come in and contribute early. Bryce Moore, Jack Nunji. Do you feel Darwishi's kind of on that same stretch as those guys you can bring in immediately? They're going to be a leader. They're going to help your team out day one.
I do. Like Darwishi is he's a great young man. He's coachable. He's had a lot of experience, obviously, in college basketball. I saw him last year live, because we played against him. Shoot, he was at Northern Illinois in our league, and they were better than us. So it's like, man, like he started for him, and I know him. It made a lot of sense to bring him back home, and he can really shoot. He led the league in threes last year, and he can defend. He's about the right things. I really excited. He's mature. He sets a great example for all these young guys that we have of what a pro's like. Right. He just goes about his work every single day, gets his extra work in. I always say there's a difference between being a 3 to 6 guy, that's what practice generally is, and being a 6 to 3 guy. He's a 6 to 3 guy as well. Like he'll get his extra work in, extra film, he'll do extra lifts. He just goes about his business like a pro, like a pro. And it sets a standard for our young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about Morgan Stafford. So last year, a couple of games I got to go up to, he was kind of the guy on the roster that jumped out the most from what I saw. His cutting ability, his athleticism was something that really sparks, especially like you mentioned, your guys' league. Where are you kind of seeing him at this point now? Obviously, being in the program for as long as he has, going through a coaching change to have you come in. What have you seen from him this summer that's really kind of had you excited about what he's going to do this year?
Yeah, tough guy, warrior, competitive, identity, plays to win. Whatever language you want to use, that's him. And he's got, again, another guy with great experience, and you can't replace that experience factor to him. That's why everybody in college basketball, right? I said it's abnormal to have 5 freshmen, right? Because I think everybody's trying to get old, stay old, using the transfer portal, and because you can't replace that experience. You just can't. And he's experienced adversity. He's experienced great games, bad games. He's seen all different types of defenses and scouting reports. You can't replace that. Just a warrior. Rebounds, defends, does all the little things as well as score. I mean, he scores the ball as well, but just does it. He fills the stat sheet. And those are the guys that I love. And I've loved over my entire career, is just guys that, man, you look up there and it's like, man, he's got 13 points, 7 rebounds. He's defending his tail off at the other end. He's got 3 assists. It's like, man, the guys that impact the game in multiple ways are your great players. And he's a great example of that.
I don't love to bring up your previous stint in situations like this, but I feel like the way I've seen you use him, and completely correct me if I'm wrong, is very similar to how you used Najee Marshall there for a stretch.
Yeah, that's how Najee was. Najee, listen, extreme talent, but he impacted the game in every way. You talk about a guy that could go 6'7". He handled the ball like a point guard and passed it and defended, rebounded, could score it, could post it. Just did a lot of things, man. Like those are you look at guys even like Colby Jones. That's what Colby. I mean, those guys that can fill the stat sheet. That's what the game has trended towards, Tim, in my opinion. And we have several of those guys here at Miami now, which is good. And because those guys can defend multiple positions, they're switchable. Which that's the way the game is kind of trending towards. Can you switch as much as possible on the perimeter 1 through 3 or even 1 through 4? And guys that can rebound the ball, that allows you to play faster when your wings can rebound. It's wings. I mean, look at the Celtics. Like I watched the Celtics the other night, and it's like, man, they got Jason Tatum out there who's 6'8", Jaylen Brown who's 6'6", 6'7". They had Derek White 6'6", 6'7", and then they had Drew Holiday, who's 6'3", 6'4", and all these guys, they're just switching everything, and they rebound and they do everything. Those guys do, and that's what the great players do.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are like that too. I just watched them last night. They do this weird switching / like this great run and gun offense. Like they're so fun.
Yeah, they can really score, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Halliburton special.
Oh my God, he's so good. He's so good.
Yeah,
I snagged him in my fantasy basketball draft this year, so I'm very excited.
That's a good pickup right there.
Yeah, not upset by any stretch. You guys do have to move. Obviously, with graduation, you move on from Mekhi Larry, who was the best free throw shooter in the country last year. I think one of the kind of a situation with him, another guy who has experience. You mentioned Evan earlier. But is he kind of a situation where, he's not one of those guys you can replace with one player, but how do you move on from a guy like that who had such a handle on your offense and getting guys ready to kind of fill, not necessarily fill his shoes, but kind of take on his role?
Yeah. Tim, you said Mekhi was a terrific player, and, he embraced, again, coaching change, stayed. And, I've known him for a long time. He's from Indiana, but he offensively, he was really good, man. We play a very different style than the previous regime here, which There's not one way. I'm not saying our way is right or wrong. I'm just saying in general. And it took him some time to kind of figure that out early on in the year. And then he started really figuring it out, right? And he careered it in all of his numbers: free throw percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, points per game, assists. And we relied heavily on him, and to your point. And when you lose a guy like that, you can't replace him just with one guy. And Mekhi was a fifth-year senior and played again. You can't replace that experience that he's gained. A guy like Evan Ipsara is a freshman, very well coached there at CovCath. I mean, he's, again, great program. But listen, this is his first taste of college basketball, and it's a different game. And, so he's obviously going to help at that position. We have Brad Dean, he's a Division II transfer. He's probably more of a combo guard, Tim, but he'll play some one as well. We have a guy, it's a complete Swiss Army knife. I don't know what position this kid is. He can play 1 through 4 for us. Probably more of a wing, but a little bit like Najee, and you mentioned him, Colby, or like those guys can really handle the ball. This kid can really handle the ball and initiate offense. He's 6'6". His name's Bryce Boltman. And then we have our big guy, Anderson Morambo, who is one of the more unique guys in college basketball. We'll let him bring it up as well. And he's a 5-man, so it's a little bit by committee with us. And because I don't know if we just have that one guy where we can just say, hey, break the press, handle the pressure, or initiate offense the entire game. Hey, just use a ball screen, end the clock, and something good's going to happen. I don't know if I don't think we necessarily have that, but we do have a lot of talent collectively, and we just got to do it by committee.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that's kind of where basketball is going at this point. There's not just a Ron Harper brings the ball up anymore kind of thing.
Yep, correct.
And I think that's kind of what's so fascinating. You talked last year when we had the conversation about year 2, being in a rebuild. You had never really been in one before. I know just as well as anybody here, no one hates losing more than you do. Where do you feel you guys are at in year 2 of your tenure here? Like you said, you did get to have that experience of playing over in the summer. You did get to kind of have your first class come in, your first full class. Where do you kind of feel things are and kind of that as you take those steps forward?
Yeah. So holistically, I think our program's much further along than it was a year ago. I always say you never really know until you lift up the hood of the car to see what's kind of underneath it. You don't really know what you have until you do that, right? And there's a lot of areas in our program that we've really tried to make a significant upgrade, and little things, Tim, whether it's like, hey, gear, nutrition, facilities. You can go on and on. Like there's a lot of work to do. And then I haven't even talked about the talent level yet, or, hey, the on-court product. But there's just a lot that goes into developing a program. There's teams and there's a program, right? Those are two very, very, very different things. And I want to build something that's sustainable, and that's a program, right? And that's what we got to get in place. And that started with our culture, getting our culture, getting the almost the building blocks down last year. And then we can start building from there, right? And sometimes you have to tear down a little bit in order to build something really good. And I do think we're more talented than we were last year. There's no question in my mind. I see it every day in practice, but we are very youthful. I will say that as well. And I see that every day in practice too. We're going to play those young guys. Now, listen, nothing's going to be given that's all earned. But, I look at our team right now and I say, well, 6 of our probably top 9 guys are freshmen and sophomores. There's no other team in our league that's like that. I know that. They're all juniors, seniors, maybe one freshman, and maybe one. We're playing 6, which is a lot. Like I said, it's a little bit unheard of in college basketball right now in the current landscape. But I've made every decision up to this point based on year 3. That's kind of the approach I took when I got the job. I said, hey, listen, Miami hasn't won in a long time. Let's don't make any short-term decisions that will negatively affect us long-term. And almost sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war, right? And that's the approach that we've taken. And just develop those young guys every day. Just get them better. Like I look at the progress a guy like Jaquel Morris has made and Ryan Mabry's made from last year. They were freshmen who I played, and they probably weren't ready to play the roles that they played, but I played them because the way you get better, you got to play.
Right.
I mean, and where they are now compared to last year, oh my goodness, they look really good, which is exciting for us, but we got to do the same thing with our current freshmen. Can we groom those guys and get them better? They got to earn the minutes, but I will say to this point they have, and they've been really good. It's a talented group. They fit Miami. They fit the way that we play, and they fit our culture. So we're definitely more talented, but we are very youthful. So I think we're a group, Tim, that's going to get significantly better as the year goes on, just because we are so young. It'll be interesting to see how we do in non-conference. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to be great or bad. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of the unknown because we have so many young guys.
Yeah.
But I do know this: when we get to January, we're going to look a heck of a lot different than we are in November. Just because I know the ceiling our group has. Like last year, I felt like our ceiling was a little bit lower. Our ceiling's a lot higher this year. Right. But we got steep. It's like I tell these freshmen, we can't have you be freshmen. Right. And it's where we are. And we need a steep learning curve from those guys. And those guys are coachable. And I like who we have. We just got to get them better.
Yeah, absolutely. So Millet Hall, obviously, I know you're looking to kind of get that place packed out. What is kind of the goal to, obviously winning is goal number 1 in every situation, but what are you trying to kind of explain to the student body, the alumni and stuff, to get more people into the arena there? Because it's a fun place to see a game. But I know obviously with last year, kind of with the transition, it wasn't the attendance you were hoping for. So what's kind of been the goal this year to kind of get more people into the games?
Yeah, I think number 1, and I do always go back to it. Listen, part of it is the product you put on the floor, right? Like I'm not going to sit here, and we got to put a good product out there. And I do think we're going to be exciting to watch. Our style of play is exciting. We're talented. We're definitely really talented. But it takes more than that in order to get people to the games. Like the marketing piece, me getting involved with the student body, meeting with different people on campus, whether it's the fraternities or sororities, student section, getting that rolling, the game day environment, things like that, like even making a few changes with that. I think goes a really, really, really long way, Tim. And like our biggest population here is our students here in Oxford. We have to speak their language. I always say that, like you gotta play to your audience a little bit. And we have a very loyal fan base of people that have been season ticket holders for 30, 40 years. And we appreciate all their support as well. But we gotta speak to different people, different age groups. I think that's important and have that awareness. But just the connections and relationships and just being around, being seen on campus, those things are really, really, really important here. And getting a couple people, it's like how you build something. It may not look that way right away, how you envision what you want it to end up being. But it just takes 1 or 2 people from the students to really get it going. Right. And we have a couple very, very passionate students here at Miami. And, and I think they're really going to help that process. And, because people around here love sports, Miami does. They love sports. We got to get them to get behind and take pride in our school. Right. And, which we will. I feel like I'm in a better place right now with that than I was last year. Probably didn't know necessarily what I was getting into. Like I said, never know until you lift up the hood of the car and see kind of what's under there. But it's kind of helped us kind of get a jump start here on year 2 as far as that goes.
Absolutely. Well, man, I hate that we're at the end of our time. I love getting to chat with you. I could talk basketball with you all day. Thank you so much as always for giving me about an hour of your time before you head out to practice. But I'm excited to see how things go this year. I know I'm going to make as many games as I can up there. So, Travis, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Tim, I appreciate you having me on.